I'm about to put you guys on every character's best in slot 5-star option, 4-star option, free to play option, and just a bunch of weapons for any character that you could use to clear endgame content. I am going to go in alphabetical order, and I am going to put timestamps so you guys know when to skip to the characters you want. I'm not going to go too into detail like percentage wise, but I am just going to give you guys a general idea. If you guys do want me to do a full guide for every weapon or a guide for every artifact set for every character, I could do that for you guys as well. Also, just because I mention a weapon doesn't mean you should go out of your way to get the weapon for that character. All the weapons I mentioned will be good on that character, so don't worry about spending money or pulling for one weapon just for that character. Also, make sure to like, sub, and join my Discord down below so you know when I upload and stream here on YouTube. Albedo. His best in slot is Cinnabar Spindle. It's just a weapon made for him, but it did come out back in 2.3 and some people might not have it. So another good option would be Jade Cutter if you have it, and a good 4-star option would be Wolf Fang. But if you do not spend any money or do not have any of these weapons, I would recommend Harbinger of the Dawn. Harbinger is an amazing weapon for him, especially when you can stay above the 90% HP threshold. I wouldn't recommend going for any 5-star weapons other than the ones I named or Albedo because they're just not as good for him as other characters, but they all can still work. Alhaitham. Now Alhaitham has a ton of weapons you can use, so get ready to hear them all. His best in slot is his weapon Light of Foliar Incision. It just provides so much for him. Jade Cutter is his second best option, giving you a ton of crit and a ton of attack. I know he doesn't scale off attack, but he can use it. Mist Splitter and Huron are both very good for him as well. And Freedom Sworn is also another great option for him. For 4-star options, his best in slot is the Black Sword, but this is a battle pass option. So free to play players can use Tokabu or they can use Iron Sting. Depending on who you're fighting, one can be better than the other. Harbinger of the Dawn can look really good knowing you could stay above 90% HP, which is going to be very hard for him. Aloy. Now for Aloy, I'm going to talk about a burst / quick swap team first. Polar Star is going to be your best in slot option, but LFG of the End, Skyward Harp, and Thundering Pulse are all amazing options for her. Now for 4 stars, I would recommend Stringless, Verdescent Hunt, or Prototype Crescent, knowing you could get the passive up. And if you are struggling to get a burst up, you can use Sacrificial Bow. Slingshot is also another decent weapon for her as well. For a support Aloy, I would recommend either Sacrificial Bow, Favonia's Bow, or Elegy of the End. And for a freeze Aloy, I would recommend Thundering Pulse, Polar Star, Skyward Harp, and for 4 stars, I would recommend Prototype Crescent, knowing you can get the passive up. Ammo's Bow and Rust can both be very good options as well. Now for a Melt Amber. Ammo's Bow, Thundering Pulse, Aqua Simulacra, Skyward Harp, and the First Great Magic are all amazing options. For 4-star options, I would recommend Prototype Crescent and Hamayumi. And if you do need a 3-star, Sharpshooter's Ult is amazing as well. Now for a Bunny Bomber team, Skyward Harp, Thundering Pulse, and Polar Star are amazing options. For 4-star options, I would recommend Verdescent Hunt, Alley Hunter, and Stringless. And for free to play, I would recommend Prototype or Blacklift. And for Virgin Amber, Stringless, Windbloom Ode, and if you don't have any of those, Ravenbow. Ayaka has a ton of weapons that you can use. Her weapon, Mist Splitter, is going to be a best in slot. However, she does have a ton of options that you can use. Huron, Jade Cutter, and Light of Foliar Incision all work amazing for her. Summit Sharper is also a great weapon, knowing you can stay shielded the whole time. Skyward Blade actually can work on her, knowing that you can use the ER substat. And for 4 stars, the only option I would recommend is Aminoma. Ayato is another character with a ton of amazing options. His signature Huron is his best in slot weapon. Jade Cutter is another amazing option for him, and so is Mist Splitter. For 4-star options, I would recommend either the Black Sword, or I would actually recommend Lion's Roar, knowing you can keep the passive up. Harbinger of the Dawn is also another strong option, knowing you can keep the passive up, which is going to be difficult for Ayato because he is on field a lot. Baizhu. Baizu's best in slot is going to be Jadefall. However, I wouldn't recommend going for it because Prototype Amber is not a big fall off compared to it. Favonia's Codex is also another great option, providing energy for you and your team. Another decent weapon for him can be Thrilling Tales, assuming you're running him on a team that can use the attack buff from the weapon. Barbara. Now for a pure healing Barbara, I would recommend Everlasting Moonglow, Prototype Amber, or Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer. For DPS Barbara, her best in slot weapons will be Cash Flow, Lost Prayer, Skyward Atlas, or Remembrance. For 4-star options, I would recommend Flowing Purity or Witsith, which are both amazing options. Beidou. Beidou doesn't have a lot of weapons because she is a Claymore user, but she has some good ones. Her best in slot is actually Serpent Spine, but if you do not buy the battle pass, Wolf's Gravestone and Skyward Pride are both amazing options. Now for 4-star options, I would recommend Akumaru, or if you manage to get the Luxurious Sea Lord, that's also a great option. Prototype Archaic is the normal free-to-play option though, and Rain Slasher can perform very well in aggravate teams. Bennett. Now for Bennett, just put the highest base attack weapon you have that isn't on another character, I guess. A Killer Favonia is his best weapon. I know Mist Splitter got the same base attack, but I wouldn't recommend throwing it onto him. Ali Flash is also another great weapon if you do have it. Skyward Blade is also a great option. For free to play, I would recommend Sapwood for the energy recharge, and Favonius could work if your team is struggling for energy. Candace. Now for an on-field Candace, her best in slot is going to be Staff of Homa. Same with Jade Wing Spear, same with Engulfing. Skyward Spine and Calamity are also great options. Now for 4 stars, Deathmatch, Catch, and Favonius are the only ones I would recommend as 4-star options for her. For an off-field Candace, Staff of Homa and Staff of Scarlet are still your best in slot options. Skyward Spine and Engulfing move above Jade Spear. And for 4 stars, the Catch, Deathmatch, Wavebreaker Fin, Favonius Lance all work very well. Charlotte doesn't have a big pool of weapons, so this is going to be fast. Charlotte's best in slots are Prototype and Favonius Codec, depending on whether you need HP or energy recharge. Building Tales of Dragon Slayer is also going to be an amazing option. Chongyun. First I'll go over a Melt team and then a Freeze team. For Melt teams, I would recommend Serpent Spine over every weapon and Wolf's Gravestone right after that. But Sacrificial Greatsword takes over because it performs nearly as well and is a great option that most people will have on their account. For free to play players, I would recommend Luxurious Sea Lord or Blackcliff Slasher. However, Sacrificial performs way better than both of those. For Freeze teams, the weapons I would recommend are Serpent Spine, assuming you can use the crit rate, Wolf's Greystone, Sacrificial Greysword, and Favonius Greysword. Prototype and Luxurious Sea Lord also perform really good. Now for Collei, I will talk about an EM build first and then I'll get onto a crit build as well. So for an EM build, the best in slot weapons will be Elegy of the End, Sacrificial, and Favonius Bow, which are all great to meet the energy recharge requirement. Now assuming you have the ER requirements already met, Stringless is a great option and gonna be the best in slot. Another great option if you did the event is Windbloom Ode. For free to play players, End of the Line is a good option, but I wouldn't recommend it over Favonius Bow. Now for a crit build, Polar Star, Elegy of the End, and Aqua Simulacra are all gonna be great options for her. For 4 stars though, I would recommend either Sacrificial Bow or the Stringless. And for free to play players, I would recommend King Squire, which is actually pretty decent on her. Now Cyno, I would recommend the same weapons for Cyno no matter the playstyle. Staff of Scarlet is gonna be his best in slot weapon, with Jade Spear and Staff of Homa coming in second. Now great 4-star options are gonna be Deathmatch or Missive Wind Spear. However, White Tassel, if you still have it, is an amazing option for him. And if you don't have any of the 4 stars I named already, then Keqing Cross Spear is gonna be your best weapon. However, it could drain your energy and could kind of mess you up a little bit. Deyha. Now first I'll go over a Burgeon Deyha, then just a general support Deyha, and then a DPS Deyha. For Burgeon, Mailed Flower is gonna be your best option, with Aquamarine and Rain Slasher both being amazing options as well. Now Blood Tainted Greysword is a 3-star weapon that is available on any banner, so you should be guaranteed to have it. For a general support Deyha, Favonius Greysword is gonna be a best in slot option. Aquamarine can also be good to give flat attack to your teammates, and the Bell is just there for an HP static and nothing else. For a DPS Deyha, Beacon is gonna be her best in slot option, with Threadhorn actually being a great static for her. Wolf's Greystone is also gonna be very good, and Skyward Pride is gonna be a great option, knowing you could get use out of the ER substat. For 4 stars, Akamaru is gonna be your best option, knowing you have the energy requirements for her. Blackcliff Slasher, Serpent Spine, and Luxurious Sea Lord all perform just as well as each other. And for free to play players, I would recommend either Tidal Shadow or Nagamasa as craftable options. Diluc. Now for Diluc, there's 2 types of teams, either a Melt or Vaporize team or a Burgeon team. So for Melt or Vaporize, Threadhorn is his best in slot option. Wolf's Greystone is also another amazing option. If you're willing to spend some money, Serpent Spine is an amazing 4-star that can compete with the 5-star. Rain Slasher is underrated as long as you can get the passive up and will perform better than free to play 4-star options. Blackcliff is another good option that does perform better than both Prototype and Luxurious Sea Lord. For a Burgeon team, same goes with Deyha, where Mailed Flower, Aquamarine, and Rain Slasher all will perform really good. Blood Tainted Sword also is another good option for a Burgeon team. For Diona, I would only recommend 3 options. Favonius Bow, Sacrificial Bow, and Elegy of the End are all great options on her. Favonius you can get for free. Dori. Now for Dori, I would recommend either Favonius Greysword or Sacrificial Greysword as your options. Now Nagamasa and Forest are both amazing free to play options as well. Eula actually has a ton of weapons, so I'll try to make this quick and simple. Wolf's Greystone can be a best in slot with the passive up, but without the passive up, Song of Broken Pines is the best possible option. Now Unforged can look amazing if you are shielded, and Skyward Pride is going to be her best in slot if you do need the ER. Now for 4 stars, Serpent Spine is your best option, with Akumaru coming in second depending depending on the team you have. Blacklift Slasher, Luxurious Sea Lord, and Prototype Archaic are going to be your best free-to-play options. Now Faruzan has a very small pool of weapons. For both free-to-play and pay-to-play, Favonius is going to be a best in slot. Elegy of the End can also be a strong option, especially with C6 Faruzan. Now any energy recharge bow can be very good on her, but Favonius is going to be better because you are going to need particles for your whole team. Now Fischl has a ton of weapons that she can use and a ton of weapons that are amazing on her. Polar Star, however, is your best option, with Elegy coming in second. After that, I would recommend using any 5-star bow that has a crit substat on it. Now there are great 4-star options. Both Ali Flash and Stringlet are going to be your best 4-star options. Now other than those two, I would recommend either Fading Twilight or Song of Stillness, which are amazing options on her. Now Freminet can either be put on a physical build or a cryo build. For a physical build, I would recommend Skyward Pride as your best in slot option, with Serpent Spine coming in a close second. Song of Broken Pines, Beacon of the Red Sea, and Wolf's Gravestone are all amazing as well. For free-to-play players, I would recommend either Prototype or Tidal as your options. Now for cryo builds, Serpent Spine is going to be a best in slot option, with Skyward Pride coming in a close second. Wolf's Gravestone is also amazing, as well as Redhorn and Beacon of the Red Sea. Again, the same forces apply. Prototype, Tidal Shadow, and Favonius are all going to be good options as well. Urena actually has a ton of options as well. Splendor is going to be her best in slot, with Jade Cutter coming in second. Now Festering Desire is better than the rest of the 5 stars, so if you do have that, you might as well use it on her. And after Key, I would recommend using the fishing weapon. Now Favonius can be good on her, knowing you need the ER on your whole team. Ganyu has a ton of weapons for both her melt and freeze teams, with Aqua Simulacra, Polar Star, the First Great Magic, and Amel's Bow all being amazing options on her. Blazing Sun is also going to be an amazing 4-star option. And for free-to-play players, Prototype Crescent and Hamayumi are both amazing options as well. Goro only got 2 weapons, Favonius and Sacrificial. Both perform really well, Favonius slightly better, however both will be completely fine. Now Hazel got 2 types of playstyle, one where he's running attack with crit, and another one where he's running pure EM. So for attack and crit, his best in slot is going to be Skyward Atlas, with Kakura's Verity and Memory of Dust coming in very close seconds, assuming you can be shielded with Memory of Dust. Cash Flow and Remembrance are both great options. Pick your weapon based on whether you need more crit or more attack. Lost Prayer is also good, however a R5 Witsith can perform better than it. Now for 4-star, Witsith is going to be your best option. Sacrificial Fragment, Solar Pearl, and Map of Mirror are all going to be very good options as well. For EM build, 1000 Floating Dreams is your best in slot, and for 4 stars, Sacrificial Fragments, Magic Guide, and Map of Mirror are going to be your best in slot. Utao actually has a good amount of weapons as well. Staff of Homa is going to be a best in slot by a great amount. However, Staff of Scarlet and Jade Spear are both going to be good options as well. For 4 stars, I would recommend Ballad or Dragon's Vein. Deathmatch is good on her, however she cannot use the attack passive part of it. For free to play players, I would recommend Missive Wind Spear. If you do not have Missive Wind Spear, White Tassel is going to be a great option. However, if you have none of those weapons, you can save up for Blacklift Pole. Ito. Now Ito has 2 main weapons that do significantly better than his other ones. Redhorn is his best in slot, with Serpent Spine coming in second. Skyward Pride can actually be a good option, knowing you can use the ER, and Whitebind is the 4-star I would recommend over everything. Now Jean. Jean has 2 types of playstyle, one where she's a sub DPS or a support, and another one where she does EM. For the sub DPS, Jade Cutter is going to be a best in slot, with Mist Splitter and Freedom Sworn coming in second, and Skyward Blade does come in fourth. Aminoma does perform almost as good as Skyward Blade at R5. It's actually very close. Festering Desire is another option if you do have it, and if you're very limited, Favonius and Sacrificial Sword can be used. If you are doing a full EM build, Freedom Sworn is the best option, with Iron Sting coming in a close second. If you can't meet the ER requirements, you can use Favonius Sword as well. Kaeya. Kaeya got 2 types of playstyles, Freeze and Reverse Melt. For Freeze teams, Mist Splitter is going to be a best in slot option by a good amount as well. Light and Huron both perform very good, and Jade Cutter slightly worse than that. For 4 stars, Ishin, Blacklift, and Aminoma all perform very well. Just go off the substats and what you need. Reverse Melt team. For 5-star options, his best in slot is going to be Jade Cutter. Mist Splitter, Huron, Light, and Freedom Sworn all perform very well. Now for 4 stars, Lion's Roar with the full passive uptime is the best in slot. Tokubu is an amazing free to play option as well. Harbinger of the Dawn is amazing with the passive up. Cave. Now any 5-star weapon for Cave is a great stat stick, and Skyward Pride can be good for ER. However, you do want EM on him. Aquamarine, Mailed Flower, and Bloodtaint are amazing for him. You can use Favonia's Greatsword for ER, and you can also use Forest for ER as well. Rain Slasher is a decent EM stat stick as your final option. Kazuha has a decent amount of weapons as well. Freedom Sworn is the only 5-star you're really going to use on him, and and is his best in slot. Zypho's Moonlight is another great option, and so is Iron Sting and Tokabu. If Kazuha or his team is struggling with energy, Favonius Sword is going to be a good option as well. Now I know Keqing does have a physical playstyle as well, however I'll only go over her Aggravate playstyle because I think it's so much better. For Aggravate, Mistsplitter, Jade Cutter, Haran, Light, and Freedom Sword all perform amazing. Tokabu is also another great option for free-to-play players, and Lion's Roar can be used as well because it will have 100% uptime. And if you could keep the HP threshold, Harbinger of the Dawn will be amazing as well. Kirara. Now her weapon pool is small as well. Favonius and Sacrificial Sword are going to be great for energy and providing your team some energy as well. Key is also going to be good with the HP secondary stat. Sapwood Blade, Festering Desire, and the fishing weapon in Fontaine can all be good for EI secondary stats as well. Klee has a decent amount of weapons she can use from. Kagura's Verity, Lost Prayer, and Skyward Alice are her best 5 stars. However, Witsith can outperform all 3 of them and is a very good option for her, knowing she can use all 3 songs. And if you are free to play, I would recommend Flowing Purity. Kokomi does have a ton of playstyles and I'll try to go over them all. Personal / on-field damage, her best in slot is Moonglow. However, Prototype Amber is amazing and can reduce some EI requirements. For a support / healer build, Thrilling Tales is going to be the best in slot and the only option I do recommend. For a Nilou Bloom team, whichever weapon has the highest elemental mastery is the weapon you're gonna put on her. Layla got 2 types of build, one where she's a pure shielder and one where she's an off-field DPS build. For a pure shielder build, the 2 options I would recommend are Favonius or Key, depending on whether you need a bunch of ER for the team or depending on if you need more HP. Jade Cutter is another option that can give you 20% HP, and Sacrificial Sword is another good option as well. Now for off-field DPS, Jade Cutter is gonna be the best in slot option and it will perform slightly better than the other 5 stars like Mistsplitter, Haran, and Light. However, Harbinger of the Dawn does perform better than any other 4-star weapon and all the other 5-star weapons that I didn't include. Now if you are struggling with energy, Favonius Sword and Sacrificial Sword can be used, however your damage won't be that high. Lisa got 3 types of playstyles, one where she's an electric on-field DPS, one where she's hyper blooming, and another one where she's supporting. I'll go over the on-field DPS first. Kagura's Verity, Lost Prayer, 1000 Floating Dreams all work very well, and if you are not running Aggravate, Skyward Alice is an amazing weapon as well. For 4 stars, Witsith is going to be your best in slot, with Solar Pearl coming in second. Another weapon that's very good is Map Amir and Fruit of Fulfillment. For a Hyper Bloom team, you do want to meet the ER requirements as well as get a bunch of EM as well. 1000 Floating Dreams, Sacrificial Fragments, Fruit of Fulfillment are all great options. Favonius Codex will work if you do need as much energy as possible. Magic Guide is also another great option because of its high EM stat. If you are building her as a support build, Thrilling Tale is going to be the best option by far. Favonius Codex can also be good to help your team with energy. Lynette. Now Lynette has a crazy high burst and it is hard to get her ER requirement. So Favonius and Sacrificial become the best in slot weapons. You can also use Freedom Sworn as a great 5-star option, and for free to play players, the Fontaine Fishing Sword and the Minoma is also an amazing option for you. You can also throw Skyward Blade on her. Linny has a ton of bows. His best in slot is going to be the first Great Magic. Aqua Simulacra is going to be great. Thundering Pulse will work amazing. Skyward Harp, Amel's Bow are all great options for him. And Polar Star can be good, however I would recommend it last out of those 5 stars. If you do want a great 4-star option, Blazing Sun is going to be the best in slot. Song of Stillness is going to be a good free to play option. Prototype Crescent is also going to be a good option as well. Now Mika doesn't have a ton of options, however all you want is energy recharge on him. Favonius Lance is going to stand on top of everything because it will give you the most particles. And if you can't use Favonius Lance, just put Prototype Starglitter on him because it gives you a decent amount of ER. Mona has a great amount of options, however Skyward Alice is going to be number 1 with the great amount of attack it gives you. Lost Prayer is another great one, and any other 5-star that has a substat of either crit or attack will be a good option on her as well. For 4 stars, Witsith is going to be a number 1 option, with Solar Pearl being a decent stat stick. However, you can just run Thrilling Tales and be a very strong support. Now Nahida has 2 types of playstyles, on-field and off-field. For an off-field build, which is what most people play, your goal is to stack as much EM as possible. So her best in slot weapons will just be any weapon with a ton of EM. 1000 Floating Dreams will be a best in slot, with Sacrificial Fragments coming in second. Another weapon that's great for free to play players is going to be Magic Guide, which will perform better than something like Map Amir. Now Kagura's Verity will perform better than the 4 stars I named, and Witsith will perform better than Magic Guide. Now for on-field Nahida, Kagura's Verity is going to be a number 1 option, with 1000 Floating Dreams and Lost Prayer coming in close seconds. The Witsith actually performs very well, and so does Solar Pearl. For free to play options, I would recommend trying to get an R5 Map Amir. However, I know some people do not want to refine it to R5, so you can either refine it to R1 and it will be really good, or you could just use Magic Guide R5. Our newest character Navia. Verdict is going to be our best in slot, with Serpent Spine, Beacon of the Red Sea, Red Horn, Unforged, and Wolf's Greystone all being amazing options on her. Now, for 4-star options, the new free-to-play weapon Mega Magic Sword is a great option. Tidal Shadow, Prototype Archaic are your 2 craftable options that you should use. Now Novelet. Novelet only really has 3 options you want to use. Luckily he's very strong and can use them all very well. His top weapon is going to be his Tome of the Eternal Flow, with second place being Sacrificial Jade as a battle pass weapon. However, free to play players can just use Prototype Amber and be really good with it and can take advantage of the energy it provides you. Now for Nilou. Nilou is simple. Whatever sword gives you the most amount of HP is the sword you want to put it on. You are going to run Nilou only in a Bloom team, so any weapon that gives you HP is going to be your best option. Of course, Key is going to be the number 1 option. Jade Cutter is another option. Another option that could work is Furina's main weapon, which is Splendor. However, only Key can outperform the Dark Hand's assistant. Ningguang's best in slot is actually Memory of the Dust, assuming you can always have a shield up, which is going to be pretty easy for her. Skyward Alice, Lost Prayer, and Remembrance are all very good options as well. Another underrated option is going to be Eye of Perception at R5, which can do really good, especially between 2 targets. Witsit and Solar Pearl are both amazing, and for free-to-play players, I would recommend Allsworn Eye. Dodo Coattails, Akushin Ring is also another great weapon. For Noelle, I would recommend the same weapons as Ito. Redhorn as your number 1 option, with Serpent Spine in 2nd and White Bind in 3rd. You can use Skyward if you are struggling with energy, however I would still recommend White Bind over. Chi-Chi. Now I'll go over 2 teams for Chi-Chi, one where she's on a Taser team and another where she's on a Permafreeze team. For the Taser team, Aquila is her best in slot weapon, with Jade Cutter coming in 2nd. Now Summer Shaper is amazing, however you need 100% shield uptime, which is hard to get on the Taser team. Blackcliff is actually an amazing weapon as well, however Lion's Roar will be way more consistent than it. Black Sword is another good option, however if you are struggling you can just use the fluid on her. Now for free to play players, I would just recommend Harbinger of the Dawn, assuming you can get 100% uptime. For Permafrost Chi-Chi, your best in slot is going to be Aquila, with Summer Sharper coming in 2nd, assuming you can have the shield time. However, it's still a great option even without the shield. Mist Splitter is going to be a great option as well. And for 4 stars, Black Sword is going to be a number 1 option, with Blackcliff coming in 2nd. Prototype Rancor is the weapon I would recommend if you are free to play though. Shogun has 2 playstyles, one where she's on field and 2 where she's hyper blooming off field. For on field Shogun, her best in slot is going to be Engulfing Lightning. The other 5-star options all come pretty close to each other. Staff of Homa, Wing Spear, Calamity Queller, and Skyward Spine are all very good. For 4-star options, Wavebreaker Fin is your number 1 option at R5. For free to play players, I just recommend the Cat. For Hyper Bloom Raiden, the only weapons I would recommend are Dragon's Bane or Moon Piercer. Your goal is just to get as much EM as possible. Now Razor got 2 type of playstyles, one where you're playing physical and one where you're playing a quick bloom team. For physical, your best in slot weapon is going to be Song of Broken Pines, however Wolf's Gravestone can compete really close with it. Serpent Spine is going to be your best 4-star option, and slightly under that is going to be Skyward Pride. For free to play players, I would recommend either Prototype or Luxurious Sea Lord. For a quick bloom Razor, your goal is just to get as much EM as possible, so Mailed Flower, Aquamarine, and Rain Slasher are going to be great options. And if you don't have any of those, you can use Blood Tainted Sword. Rosaria, she got 2 types of teams. She got a freeze team and a reverse melt team. For freeze teams, in the best possible scenario, our R5 for Wavebreaker's Fin is going to be a number 1 option. However, Staff of Homo will be your overall best option. Even at R1, Wavebreaker Fin is still amazing. Vortex Vanquisher, assuming you can be shield, is a great option as well, and same with Jade Wing Spear. If you have Skyward Spine, you can just use that too, and Lithic Spear works very well. Engulfing Lightning can be used because it could be hard to get Rosaria's burst. For free to play options, I would recommend Blackcliff Pole or the Catch, both being very good and equal to each other. For a reverse melt team, the best possible option is Staff of Scarlet. Staff of Homa, Wavebreaker Fin R5, Deathmatch, Dragon's Bane R5, and Jade Spear all perform very equal. However, you could just throw her on Dragon's Bane and it'll be very good. For free to play players, I would just recommend the Catch because it is still strong. For Kujo's Sorrow, Polar Star is going to be a best in slot weapon, with Skyward Harp, Hunter's Path, Aqua Simulacra, Thundering Pulse all being amazing on her. You can run Ali Hunter or Moon's Moon because they both are very strong on her. For free to play players, I would recommend Fading Twilight because it is her best free to play option. However, if you did miss on it, I would recommend either Stringless, Sacrificial Bow, or Blackcliff Warbow. Favonius is also a weapon if you want to play her as a support character. Sayu. Now for Sayu, you're gonna need her burst a good amount, so ER weapons are gonna be her way to go. Another way to go is EM weapons if you're strictly building her full EM. So Skyward Pride, Favonia's Greysword, Sacrificial Greysword, and Nagamasa are all gonna be great options. If you do plan on building her full EM, Mailed Flower, Rain Slasher, and Aquamarine are all great options as well. Shenhe. Now for Shenhe, the weapon I would recommend over everything is Favonia's Lance, assuming her or the team is struggling with energy. However, if you're good with energy, Calamity Queller is the best in slot. Engulfing Lightning, Skyward Spine, and Vortex Vanquisher all perform really good as well. For 4-star options, I would recommend either Lithic Spear, the Catch, or Deathmatch over the other weapons. Now Kuki does have 3 playstyles, one where she's Hyper Blooming, one where she's part of an Aggravate team, and then a pure healer build. For Hyper Bloom, your goal is to stack as much EM as possible. The best option is Freedom Sworn, with Zyphel's Moonlight coming in 2nd. However, she performs really good with Iron Sting and Tokabu Beidou, both giving you 165 EM. For an aggravate team, you got a ton of weapons. Jade Cutter, Mistsplitter, Haran, Freedom Sword all perform really well. For 4-star options, you could put on Festering Desire, Zypho's Moonlight, Iron Sting, or Tokubu. Now for a pure healer build, you got a ton of options as well. Key, Freedom Sword are your 5-star options that will work. Zypho's Moonlight, Iron Sting, and Tokubu are all very good as well. Now Sucrose does have a good amount of weapons. If you are going for a full EM build, Sacrificial Fragments is going to be your best in slot. However, you can use 1000 Floating Dreams, Wandering Evan Star, or even Magic Guide. Now if you do want to buff somebody's attack, you can put it on Thrilling Tales and have it on that weapon. It will be really good as well. Now Child or Tartaglia actually has a ton of weapons you can use from. His best in slot is going to be Polar Star. However, Thundering Pulse, Aqua Simulacra, and Skyward Harp all do the job just fine. Ammo's Bow is kind of worse than those, but still very good as well. For 4 stars, Redescent Hunt is your top option. However, you can play Rust and just spam normal attacks and it'll do really good as well. Hamayumi is going to be your best free-to-play option. However, you can play Prototype Crescent and try to get a quick scope in and then start spamming normal attacks. Now if all your damage is going to come from Child's Burst, you can put him on R5 Stringless or R5 Moon's Moon and it'll perform really well as well. Okay, Toma has 2 types of build I would recommend, either a shield support team or a Burgeon team. For shield support, you should try to get his burst more than anything, so Favonius Slants is going to be your best in slot weapon. However, Engulfing Lightning and the Catch can both be great, and a little bit under those, Crossspear, Prototype, Skyward are all pretty good as well. And if you're not struggling with ER at all, then Black Tassel can be a decent one. For a Burgeon team, you can go either an EM weapon or you can just go for Favonius Slants. Crossspear, Dragon's Bane, and Moonpiercer are all EM weapons you could use. Now Tignari got a good amount of weapons. Hunter's Path is going to be his best in slot. However, his best in slot weapon isn't going to come back probably ever. However, Aqua Simulacra, Polar Star, Thundering Pulse, Skyward Harp, and even Elegy at the end with its passive up can perform very well. If you did pull Ammo's Bow, you can use that as well. And for free to play and 4-star options, I would just recommend Prototype. For an Emo Traveler, I would recommend a full EM build, but you can go a crit build as well. For EM build, Freedom Sword is your best in slot. Zypho's Moonlight, Iron Sting, and Tokubu all work very well though. For a crit build, Jade Cutter, Light, Haran, Mistsplitter, Summit Sharper, Aquila all work insanely well. Now for 4 stars, Lion Roar is a good option, assuming you can keep up the passive. Harbinger of the Dawn is also a good option that can give you a ton of crit. If you are struggling with energy though, Sacrificial Sword, Favonius, Festering Desire, Amino Moss, Skyward Blade, Sapwood, and the Fishing Fontaine weapon all work pretty good. Dendro MC, the only MC I would really recommend building. Now you want his burst as often as possible, so ER weapons are the way to go. Favonius Sword, Sacrificial Sword, Skyward Blade, Fishing Fontaine weapon, Festering Desire, Sapwood are all very good options. Now assuming you already have his ER requirement met, Freedom Sword is going to be an amazing option on him. Jade Cutter, Mistsplitter, Haran, and Light are all also amazing options. For 4 stars, Lion's Roar and Wolfang are both amazing options, and if you want a 3-star option, Harbinger of the Dawn can work. Now if you do want EM weapons, you can go Zypho's Moonlight, Tokubu, and Iron Sting, all being okay options for him. Now Electro MC is very easy to build. Your best options are going to be options that give you a ton of energy. Favonius Sword, Sacrificial Sword, or Aminoma all work insanely well. You can also throw her on any other ER weapon like Skyward Blade, Festering Desire, Fontaine Fishing Weapon. All of them will work pretty okay, but the first 3 I named will be a lot better. For GOMC, Jade Cutter, Haran, Mistsplitter, Light are all great options. Summit Sharper is also another great option as well. Now for 4 stars, you can throw him on Lion's Roar, assuming the enemies are affected by Pyro or Electro, and it will be good as well. Alley Flash, the Black Sword, Festering Desire, Harbinger of the Dawn, and the Fishing Fontaine weapon all work very well. Hydro Traveler. Please don't build Hydro Traveler. However, Mistsplitter, Jade Cutter, Haran, Light are all amazing options on him. For 4 stars, Wolfang, Zypho's Moonlight, Favonius Sword, Festering Desire, Finale of the Deep, Fishing Fontaine weapon, and Iron Sting are all okay on him. Again, please don't build Hydro MC. Now Venti got 2 types of builds. One where you go full EM, which is a lot easier to build, and a crit Venti, which is very high investment. For an EM Venti, Stringless and Elegy are the only options I would recommend. However, if you don't have those, you can go for Fading Twilight or Favonius Bow, both being free to play. Now for crit Venti, Polar Star, Stringless, Aqua, Skyward Harp, and Elegy are all very good options. For 4-star options, you can go Blackcliff, but if you are going to be running a 4-star option, you shouldn't be running a crit Venti. Now for Wander, he has 2 types of playstyles. One where he's a hyper carry, and 2 where he's an Emo driver. Both playstyles will use the same weapons though. Your best in slot options are going to be his weapon Remembrance, Lost Prayer, Skyward Atlas, Kagura's Verity, and Witsith is actually your next option after that. Blackcliff Agate or Mappa will be a great option for free-to-play players. Now Risley does have two types of team, either a freeze team or a melt team, however most times you are going to be using the same weapon. His best in slot will be cash flow and remembrance will come in a close second. Now any other 5-star will work very well on him. Lost Purse, Skyward Atlas, Kagura's Verity are all strong options. If you don't have any of the 5-stars, a great 4-star option and a great free-to-play option is Flowing Purity and the one I would recommend. Witzit is another strong weapon, but you do gotta get lucky with it. Now Xiangling has a ton of weapons that outperform similar in strength. Staff of Scarlet, Staff of Homa, Engulfing Lightning, the Catch, Deathmatch, Dragon's Bane, Jade Wing Spear, all those weapons perform insanely strong and she can use each one of them. However, if you don't have any of the weapons I just named, for a free-to-play player that already has the Catch in use, Missive Wind Spear is a great option, and if you manage to pull Skyward Spine, it's slightly better than that. Now Xiao's only playstyle is a hyper carry, and he does have a ton of 5-star options, however his 4-star weapons do kinda suck. Jade Spear and Staff of Homa are your two best options, with Vortex and Calamity being pretty okay on him but not nearly as good as Staff of Homa and Jade Spear. Another 5-star weapon that I would put him on is Staff of Scarlet. For 4-star options, your best option is the Deathmatch, however, some people don't want to buy the Battle Pass, so if you're free to play, Blackcliff Pole is your best option with Missive Wind Spear coming right after that. Now Xingqiu has a ton of options. Now depending if you have energy or not, the weapons can switch. His best in slot will be Jade Cutter, with Mistsplitter coming in second and Huron and Light performing pretty much the same. Now another great option is Skyward Blade, however you could just put him on Sacrificial Sword and you don't have to worry about energy on him. Now if for some reason you don't have any of the weapons I named above, you can just put him on the Fontaine Fishing Sword for now until you get one of the weapons. Now Xinyan got two types of playstyles, a physical and a pyro playstyle. So I'll start with physical. Redhorn is going to be a best in slot in general, however Skyward Pride is very strong and the Unforged can be amazing if you are shielded the whole time. Serpent Spine is your best 4-star option and will perform slightly better than Song of Broken Pines. For free-to-play players, I would just recommend putting her on Prototype Archaic and leaving it at that. For a Pyro build, your best option is still going to be Redhorn, however your second best option will be Serpent Spine. Wolf's Greystone and Unforged are still insanely strong, and Blackcliff Slasher at R5 can perform insanely well. Skyward Pride is going to be another great option, however if you are free to play, I would just recommend again crafting a Prototype Archaic or getting a Blackcliff Slasher for her. Now Yae Miko has a decent amount of options she could use. Kagura's Verity is going to be a number 1 option, with Skyward Atlas coming in second. Memory of the Dust is okay on her, however she can be shielded and take advantage of the full passive. Lost Prayer is also another weapon that's okay on her but can take advantage of the passive again, unless you are playing it on Field Yae. A best 4-star and free to play option is going to be Old Sworn Eye, which came out a while ago and some people might not have it. So the Witzit is another great option that you can use. Solar Pearl is also another good option assuming you do normal attacks in between skills. And if you are free to play and missed out on Old Sworn Eye, Akushin Ring is another great option for her and better than any other free to play option. Now Yanfei got a decent amount of weapons and playstyles as well. You can put on either a Virgin team or you could put on a Vaporized team. Now for a Vaporized team, Lost Prayer is your best option, with Kagura's Verity coming in second. Now Witzith can perform better than any other 5-star because she can take advantage of all 3 passives. However, if you are free to play, Doroko Tails if you have it, Old Sworn Eye, Blackcliff Agate, and Mappa Mirror are all pretty good on her. However, DPS drastically falls with these free to play weapons. Now if you are playing a Yanfei Virgin build where you want to stack as much EM as possible, your best option is to put on 1000 Floating Dreams, Sacrificial Fragments, and Magic Guide being your baseline free to play option. Yao has 4 weapons which I would recommend choosing from. Assuming you want the HP for as much healing as possible, Black Tassel is going to be your option. Now if you are running her on a team which needs a lot of EM, Kitten Crossspear or Moon Piercer are both going to be great and free to play options as well. And if you do just want energy for your team, you can just put Favonius Lance on and help out the whole team. Now Yolande does have a good amount of team she's on, however her best in slot weapon will be Aqua on each team. Now Favonius is going to be her second best option and a free to play option, assuming you don't have enough energy to get her burst every rotation. Now if you can get her burst every rotation without Favonius, Polar Star, Elegy, Skyward Harp, Fading Twilight, Moon's Moon, all insanely good options. Another 4-star option that's really good is Sacrificial Bow. Now Yoimiya does also have a ton of options. Her best in slot is her weapon Thundering Pulse. However, her second best in slot is a R5 Thrust. Now if you don't have an R5 Thrust, Aqua Simulacra, Polar Star, and Skyward Harp all look amazing. Now even at R1, Rust is still your best in slot 4-star. Now you can put her on an R5 Slingshot and see if that works for you. However, for free to play players, the weapon I would recommend is Hamayumi. Now Yunjin. Yunjin's only goal is to get her burst, so the only weapons I would recommend are energy recharge weapons. Her best in slot is going to be Favonius Lance. However, if you need Favonius Lance on somebody else, you could throw on any energy recharge weapon out there. Engulfing Lightning, the Catch, Prototype, Crossspear, Skyward Spine all do good. but I wouldn't recommend throwing it on her over Favonius Lance. Now Zhongli does have two types of playstyles I would recommend, either a shield bot or a burst support. Now shield bot, there are only two weapons I would recommend, and that's Black Tassel being the only pole arm that gives you HP as a secondary stat, and Favonius Lance which could give you particles for your team. For his second playstyle, he has a ton more weapons you could use. Staff of Homer is going to be his best in Slaw, but with Wavebreaker R5 being very strong on him. Calamity Quiller does work. The catch R5 is actually a great option on him because it could give you energy and will give you burst damage and crit rate. Deathmatch, Jade Spear, Vortex, and Skyward all perform very similar and are insanely strong for this type of build.